Am I the a-hole for not using my inheritance, from my parents, from my husband's family? First time posting here. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to use my inheritance to pay for building my husband's sisters a home on our farm? My husband, 52, and myself, 50, have been married for 31 years. We purchased his parents' farm several years ago and paid for it with a mortgage. We have since paid that mortgage off. We also built our forever home on the farm, and it is also paid for, and we raise cattle on the farm. His family is always asking for help. His sisters specifically, and a couple of his nephews. For context, we took care of his father, mother, and Down syndrome sister when nobody else in his family would take care of them. We were the only ones of his siblings who still had young children at home, but we felt that if we didn't take care of them, the state was going to step in and take them away. In my family, you take care of your family, so we took them in and never looked back. However, I think his family resented us for this and somehow feels like they are owed something because we own the family farm. And for some reason my husband thinks he has to take care of his other sisters, even though there is nothing wrong with them except they have low IQs. I have inherited a decent amount of money from my parents. My husband doesn't know the specifics and is upset that I won't disclose the amount. He doesn't have access to the account. He wants me to take some of the money and build a house on our farm, his family farm, for his sisters to live in so they won't have to pay rent anymore or live in apartments. He wants us to pay their property taxes and insurance because they won't be able to afford that, but they can pay their utilities. He doesn't want to charge them rent. Why should I use my inheritance that my parents worked their butts off to earn and pass on to me so that my husband's lazy sisters can sit in a brand new house on their family's farm and never have to pay property tax or insurance or rent? I feel like this is my money and I shouldn't have to spend it on his family. I want to put the majority of it in trust funds to our 2 children so I can pass it on to them. And to be honest, I am seriously thinking about just taking my inheritance and getting a divorce and living happily ever after. So, am I the a-hole?
Not the a-hole. He should be thinking of his children, not his siblings. After 31 years, I assume there are very good reasons that you are considering divorce.
Yes, I have been dwelling on divorce for a few months now that I know he has been verbally abusing me and gaslighting me, and I didn't realize it until I called the National Abuse Hotline one night after he yelled at me about the money.
When you leave, make sure you go after marital assets. Anything you get out of the divorce will help build a future for your children. Anything he gets will be funneled back into his siblings, not his children. Focus on building yours and their future since he is not.
First off, it stopped being his family's farm when you bought. It is your inheritance to do with as you see fit, building a house for people that have absolutely no idea how to take care of themselves, much less a house you would save time throwing that money into a fire pit and striking a match.
If they build his family a house then OP is never getting rid of them, nor will her kids when they inherit. It'll be some big drama, and what she's worked hard for in order to pass on will be diluted. And you know there will be fights over their inheritance when husband dies. Put your foot down, OP, keep your money, and if possible, stop your husband from giving those freeloading siblings more. That's money your kids will never see.
Yeah, my first thought was, I bet they trashed the place, let it get damp and moldy, or ignore small repairs. Then before you know it, OP is dropping another $10K on a new roof, bathroom, kitchen, whatever. Owning a house is brilliant, but you need to have a financial buffer in place for inevitable repairs and upkeep. And I bet they'll expect OP to pay for all that stuff.
Not the a-hole ask him to use his inheritance money for his sisters. Oh, wait, there won't be any. It seems like he's taking after the rest of his family and seeing you as his personal piggy bank. Your inheritance is yours. It was left to you for you and whoever you choose to use it on.
Not the a-hole. Stand strong. Put the inheritance in a trust for your own kids. Or spend it traveling. Don't spend it on leeches.
Am I the a-hole for screaming at my father and his wife and refusing to stop until I said what I needed to? I, 16 female, live with my father, his wife, my 2 step-siblings and half-sibling. My parents divorced when I was 3 and I last saw my mom when I was 6. She lost custody of me because she's mentally ill and her whole family is. My father was awarded primary custody of me, which became sole custody over time. I really only remember one visit with my mom, and she was really sick. We know her parents, her 4 siblings, and her all suffered with their mental health, and likely the same one. It's also believed her great-grandparents were mentally ill too, but she never knew them. I never knew anyone in her family. My father and his wife met when I was 5, and we lived together when I was 6, and they got married when I was 7. She wanted to adopt me, but I said no. My mother pays child support and has never missed a payment, according to my grandpa. My father and his wife like to ignore my mental health and the family history and genetic component to mental illness. They like to pretend my father's wife is my mother, and they don't want me talking about my mom. I still do. It pisses them off. I bring up the mental health reasons, and they tell me nurture is more important than nature. They tell me I'm disrespectful, dismissing my father's wife's influence and place in my life, and how I have 2 parents in my home. I shouldn't wonder about someone who didn't love me enough to get herself together. I told them mental illness isn't that straightforward, and they told me to focus on my real mom, meaning my father's wife. I don't call her my stepmother because of how dismissive she is about my mental health. Same reason my father is my father and not my dad. My grandma never liked my mom, so she's with them. But grandpa is on my side. He also kept in touch with mom secretly and checks in on her. I know I'm mentally ill. I already have some stuff going on. I told my father, and he brushed it off as me imagining things, which I said yeah, and that's my problem. But he doesn't want to hear it. His wife doesn't want me to talk about it when her kids are in the house. So basically never. They saw me searching my mom's name online last week, and they told me to drop it and stop disrespecting my real mom, the woman who raised me and is the reason I am who I am. They said I keep looking for ways to push her away. And I lost it. I started screaming that she's not my mom, she will never be my mom, she didn't pass her DNA on to me, and it's not her medical history that's relevant to mine. I told them she can't save me from mental illness. That they can't ignore the problem and think it won't happen. They tried to stop me, but I kept going until I made it very clear how angry I was and how I would blame them if I got so bad it was harder to treat. They were madder than I ever saw them. Especially because the other kids were in the house and heard everything. Am I the a-hole?
Not the a-hole. Your father and his wife are erasing your mother from your life, and that is wrong. Thankfully, you can move out when you're 18.
Yep. I'll be able to leave, and it will probably be the healthiest thing I can do at that age.
You need to get other adults involved. Get a doctor or counselor or therapist who has more authority to your parents, and have them explain that ignoring your issues doesn't make them disappear. It just makes it harder for you to find a balance, because it will be harder for you to find balance your whole life.
First episodes of psychosis need to be treated early, whatever the cause. The longer left untreated, the harder to treat.
That's what angers me so much.
You have every right to be angry. It is true that the longer it goes on, the harder it is to treat, but don't lose hope. I avoided treatment for almost a decade because my psychosis made me terrified of doctors, and I am now on meds that agree with me and in therapy, and I am happier and doing better than ever before.
Not the a-hole. I hope you can convince your father and his new family to acknowledge the fact that you have a biological mother different from your father's other children.
I think it's unlikely, but at least I have my grandpa.
I don't know what the rules for emancipation in your country is, but do you think there's a possibility of you maybe living with your grandpa in the last 1 to 2 years before you're 18?
I can't believe your father and stepmother have solved the nature versus nurture argument. When do they get their Nobel? As long as they pretend to know everything, keep pretending they are not your parents. Give grandpa an extra hug, not the a-hole.
For real. OP, I'm having delusions, I need help. Father and wife, but delusions are great. Without them we'd have to actually face reality, and we don't wanna.
What do you think of these stories? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel to see more interesting videos.